here with Terry Iverson, the founder of Champion Now, and coming up close to 50 years in manufacturing industry with Iverson and Company, almost like a 100-year company, family-owned company. Recently, your father passed away.
He did.
And you have, in his honor, created the Jerry R. Iverson Memorial Scholarship. Give us a background how it's funded and how people can apply for it, and what are some of the factors that are involved in selecting a winner.
So the scholarship, when my dad passed, he has a very long legacy in the manufacturing sector. My grandfather started in the industry in 1925, so this is the 100th year that our family's been in manufacturing. But Dad mentored so many people and started so many companies with financing their first machine tool, the first lathe. And, you know, what a way to show appreciation for his legacy than start a scholarship and financially be able to kickstart, just like he kickstarted a lot of companies, kickstart a lot of young people's education or careers potentially in manufacturing and or engineering. And so when he passed, I had it asked to my friends, his friends, my family, which is his family as well, of course. And so we were fortunate to raise about $25,000 in approximately a couple dozen hands, so to speak. We'd like to have an endowment that earns income that can then feed the scholarship going forward. So that's our intention. You know, maybe one day I might, start a golf tournament potentially, where the golf tournament proceeds could also fund the endowment and future scholarships.
The scholarship itself is being funded through Champion Now, the organization. And how's Taft involved?
So, good point. Taft, my dad and my two uncles all graduated from Taft High School. And my dad was responsible for 2 to 3 companies that he was involved in ownership and directing. My Uncle John, who's still alive, was involved in a very large company that he owned at some point in his career, 750 people to be exact. And then my other uncle, who's deceased as well, he had 2 companies that he was involved. So we have a lot of very productive components that came out of Taft High School with the 3 brothers. So I learned early on, after establishing the scholarship fund, that it was really difficult to monitor and to solicit applications. And then finally one day I just thought, you know what? Taft has an alumni program. They have scholarships. All 3 brothers came from Taft, graduated from Taft. That's the best place to host, have the scholarship program hosted. So it's for Taft students.
Okay, and so it's hosted there. So this is for Taft students, and your first recipient was this year.
Niko Aleksic received $1,000, and our intention is and always was that there would be a second-year component that they could apply to continue their path that they started out as. If they went into something that wasn't engineering or manufacturing, I don't know that we would fund it for the second year, because we want them to continue that path. And if another scholarship can do that, we want to be all about that.
On the set of Bourbon with the Editor, talking to the first winner of the Jerry R. Iverson Memorial Scholarship. His name is Niko, but I'm going to have him introduce himself.
My name is Nikola Aleksic. I go by Niko. I just recently graduated Taft High School, so I plan on attending UIC in the fall, majoring in civil engineering, and I'm super grateful to have been awarded this scholarship.
How are you going to use the scholarship? How is it going to help you at school for your first year?
I think the scholarship takes me one step closer to, my long-term goal, and that is to become a civil engineer. It's going to help me with getting the proper equipment to go to school, just getting my education. And, I'm super happy about that.
You just finished school at Taft, graduated, and tell us a little bit about your daily life, some of the programs, the IBDP.
So I think Taft is a great school. I had a great experience there. my junior year, I entered the IB program.
That's the International Baccalaureate?
Yeah, diploma program.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but for short, the IBDP, IB diploma program. And I think that's where I really, started to change in a better way. Entering that program kind of changed my perspective on the way I look at, my future and what I want to do with it. I learned a lot of valuable, skills, and, I just grew as an overall person. I learned about responsibility. I learned about my time management because, I was getting so much homework. You got to learn how to, manage all of that. So, it taught me these valuable skills that I need, that are important for me to know in the future. So,
what year did you enter that program?
So I entered that program my junior year. It's a 2-year program. So your junior year and senior year, you take 2-year courses, and they're really grueling. It's the highest program you can take at my school.
Okay, and you did this. You entered that program.
Yeah.
You probably had your eyes set on it at some point early on, I'm imagining, because of your interests in building Lego contraptions.
Yeah.
And the one I want to ask you about is the house or building you created in your backyard using fence pickets.
So, growing up, I'd say I was always really creative. I'd take apart all my toys and put them back together. I just loved creating things. And so I think that's where my interest in, civil engineering and, just creating structures came about. And, entering the diploma program at Taft, it taught me these valuable, skills that I think will help me in my future career. And it just kind of, it builds on everything that, I was growing up. I was always interested in, building all this creative stuff, and then, I entered the program, and then I learned all these valuable lessons, and it's just building on, so.
When you go to UIC,
Yeah.
is there a particular program that you're going to get into? I mean, I don't know what the technical terms are, but could you just kind of tell me what that is?
So I'm pretty sure they have a National Honor Society, and I love to challenge myself. I wouldn't have gone into the IB diploma program otherwise. I love a good challenge. So I want to take the highest classes available to me. I want to be out there and put myself in the shoes where I can have opportunities always. So I'm pretty sure they have a civil engineer club as well, and they have a lot of great internships and opportunities for people in that pathway. So that's definitely something I look forward to getting into.
You indicated when you were in the application for the scholarship that you want to manage large projects like building bridges and that sort of thing. Are you constantly changing your vision for your future, or has that been your vision all along?
I think as as the years pass, as time passes, our goals change in various ways, and the long-term goal has always been to create these big projects, whether it be bridges, buildings, roads, whatever it is. I think that's the focal point. Recently it's kind of shifted to I want to get my master's in structural engineering, so I really want to deal with the structural aspect of creating these structures, making sure they last a long time, making sure they can be sustainable. And I feel like that's kind of shifted me towards like larger structures. Like I'd love to be able to work on some buildings as well as bridges, as civil engineers often do. But skyscrapers, that's a great goal of mine. Maybe one day.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You talking about time management skills that the IBDP program has taught you, but you also had some of that in your personal life the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Your mom was going to work full time, so you had to had a few extra responsibilities around the house.
Right.
Is that make you more confident now in
Oh, yeah.
heading out into the college?
For sure. We all have our own, stuff happens, right? And these last couple of years, my life has kind of, changed a little bit in terms of, the responsibilities I have to take on. And, that's because, my mom was always stay at home. She always took care of us growing up. And, the financial stability of my household wasn't always an issue. In recent years, it's changed. After the pandemic,
Right.
a lot of businesses took a hit, and my mom had to enter the workforce, and she's working full time now along with my dad.
Yeah.
And that I had to kind of step into a more responsible role. I have a younger sibling that I need to look after, take care of, and I had a lot more responsibilities around the house, and that has kind of shaped me into a more, I think, well-rounded and responsible person as well. So
Are you going to be living downtown Chicago?
no, I'm going to be living at home.
So you are going to
I'm
stay at
commuting.
home. Okay,
Yeah.
so because you're going to be staying in at home,
Yeah.
and it sounds like that's another money saving.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's great.
Yeah, college is expensive.
Yeah, I mean it's not for everyone. And on that point, this scholarship. We'll get into some details about it, but it is through the Champion Now program, which is run by Terry Iverson.
Yeah.
And the whole mission is to change the perception of manufacturing
Right.
careers. Now, while you aren't necessarily going into manufacturing, this is like you're going into engineering, and whatever you do, manufacturing is going to
It's
play
gonna be
some role.
Right.
And it is I guess the perception of manufacturing is something that is urgently in need of a makeover.
Yeah.
So when you heard about this scholarship, what was your view of a manufacturing careers?
I feel like what Champion Now is, one of its main goals is for the younger generation to bring light to what manufacturing actually is. And up until I actually applied for the scholarship, manufacturing was kind of like a distant idea to me, and it is for a lot of people my age, and even younger. I just turned 18, and there's a misconception behind what manufacturing is. People think that you're working on a line, getting your hands dirty. It's more than just that, and it is a feasible career pathway that people can take. But at the time when I was applying for the scholarship, that wasn't something that I heard a lot of people my age talking about. We're thinking about our post-secondary pathways and what path we want to take after high school, and the main thing you hear is, I want to go to a 4-year college. Maybe some people say they want to enter trade, maybe some people are entering the workforce. Manufacturing isn't up there. People don't mention that. And I think since winning the scholarship and connecting with Mr. Terry Iverson and really getting to know what Champion Now is all about, it's opened my eyes to what manufacturing actually is. And I think that's important for the younger generation, for them to understand that manufacturing is more than what it seems, and that it is an actual career pathway that you can take.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah.
I think the first thing that a lot of people probably do think about when they think about manufacturing is a factory floor where
Right.
it's mass production and you're on a line of some kind. And that with factories there is that.
Yeah.
But there's a whole other aspect of manufacturing
Right.
that the machining shops and what we like to focus on here is the CNC aspect. It all has to do with getting all of the components throughout the manufacturing tiers they got to be made, and it's not all on like a mainstream factory floor like like the breweries from the long ago era when we used to still have Pabst around here. But it is both a type of a career you can go into pretty much right out of high school with a little bit of training, a little bit of knowledge, maybe with an associate's degree in some of the kind of take a CNC machining course or something like that. But you can go straight in and get this knowledge and this experience, and it has many times, in talking to people in the industry, led to them pursuing an engineering degree from a four-year university at some point, and they get assistance usually from the company they're working for. But it's an interest that they come to while they're doing this work, and I just kind of wonder what your perspective would be. What's your reaction to that? I mean, because I find it repeated over and over again the more people I run across in this industry.
I mean, I think the two are like deeply tied together, engineering and manufacturing, and for me, even though I'm not directly going into manufacturing, it's something I'm going to have to work with, and I acknowledge that and I understand that, and the two are just deeply tied together. So it's if you're going into manufacturing, maybe you'll find yourself going into some degree of engineering at some point, or maybe the other way around. So the two are deeply tied together, and it's really important that I think the younger generation pursues those careers, because that's what builds this country.
And it's a well-paying job usually. So I mean, for everyone to understand how busy you have been at Taft, beyond the IBDP program and what was going on at home and your increased responsibilities there, at the same time you were involved with soccer and other extracurricular clubs and things. Give me the lowdown on all the things you've done, and plus you helped out with youth sports coaching.
I mean, I like helping the community, especially I think that I'm young, but really? there's always you can always help younger people. And for me, that means helping, elementary schoolers, middle schoolers. I was always involved with soccer. I played on the soccer team at Taft, the high school I went to, and I would help out with the youth camp over there, and it was just really I really enjoyed helping the younger kids.
How old were they?
They were it was an age range. There were different groups. I think it was first graders to seventh graders, so an age range from like 6 to 12. So I'm helping these younger kids learn about soccer, and it's fun. We're enjoying it, so it's a great thing. I think helping people and helping your community, being there. I think everyone should try to be there for their community.
Do you like doing that? Do you like coaching like that?
Kids are hard to work with sometimes. That's a given. But at the end of the day, you leave, like I'm leaving the field, and I'm happy with myself. I feel content. I know that I helped a kid learn something today. Maybe I made some kids' day. And that's always great. So it was a good experience.
Just gotta ask you about the your interest in film. Is that just a hobby, or is that a along with being I think as a creative person growing up, I'm like building all these things. I tried making this, house in my backyard with, these leftover fence pickets. And a part of me, with that creativity also like went into, film production. And it does interest me. It's more so a hobby, but it's definitely something I enjoy doing. I love editing. I love all the, and music.
Music as well. I love the, tiny details that go into making a production. good. So that's something I enjoy doing a lot. Yeah.
If you have a photo of this picket fence building,
I'm gonna have to search through some photo albums for that one.
you got to have
Yeah,
one.
it's got to be there somewhere.
How long ago was this?
I was maybe 7 or 8.
Wow.
So this was almost 10 years ago now.
Okay. Wow, that's kind of cool. Was this your fort in your backyard,
Yeah,
or is that
basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice. Let me ask you about your time as one of the clubs you were part of is the Serbian club.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about the club and your what was it that you were exploring there? If you want to talk about the culture.
So I'm Serbian myself. So I'm quite acquainted with the culture and the language, but being in the United States as a first generation college student and just American in general.
Well, you were born here.
I was born here,
but your family came from Serbia.
Right. Yeah. So I'm around the language. I'm around the culture, but in my household. But then when I leave my household, it's completely different. It's the American. I'm living in America, and joining Serbian club. It was like a way for me to reconnect to that culture because outside of my house, I'm not really connecting to it as much. So I met a lot of Serbian people at my school, and I made some great friends for life. Some great people I met there. And we do a lot of stuff. There's an international night at our school, so every club, Filipino club, Korean club, Polish club, all these different cultural clubs, they perform on international night. They show a little bit of their culture, and doing that international night for me is just a great experience. I get to show the rest of the school, where I'm from.
So this is is it a international night? Is it just milling around, talking, networking, or is it more of a performance and music and dance or anything?
It's a combination of both. We get along with the other clubs, because everybody's sharing the experience. Yeah. It's a great experience for all of us, but at the same time, we're there to show the audience, a little bit of our culture, a little bit of us. So, other than that, there's times when our sponsor brings in Serbian food. We eat Serbian food and we just talk. It's a really enjoyable thing. I encourage everyone to look into clubs at their school. Be a part of extracurriculars because you meet great people and you learn great things.
Did this help ground you more when you're at school, I guess, or just being out and about in the American public? No, is this kind of a grounding experience for you?
In terms of being, grounded, I did find a little bit of that in Serbian club. It helped me stay connected with my culture, and I don't want to forget where my family's from. I want to keep our culture going and keep our traditions going. So it does. I don't want to get lost in the mix. You were talking about getting lost in the mix. I go to a large school and, close to 5,000 students. It's easy to get lost in the mix. And, finding Serbian club, finding, people that I can relate to definitely kept me grounded and, stay away from getting lost in that.
This melting pot, this diversity of cultures coming together in a school is a fantastic opportunity.
It is. Yeah.
And, where else are you going to be able to get to know people from so many different cultures, or cultural backgrounds?
It's really eye-opening, and that's what I like about it. I have a lot of friends from a lot of different countries, and I love learning about different cultures. I love getting familiar with, their traditions and what they do in their household, and it's great.
One of your goals is to help the public safety and well-being of the public. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you exactly? Can you kind of explain what the public well-being, what is it that you see?
So one of your jobs as a civil engineer is to, ensure the sustainability and, safety of structures. And that's something, as someone who's really community oriented and oriented around helping other people, that's something that I really look into and, want to ensure when, one day I do become a civil engineer. I want to make sure that I can, provide these structures and, buildings for the public, but also make sure they last and are safe. So it's just, it's all centered around the vision of helping other people. I really want to be there for the community and, make sure that we have good, safe public roadways. Potholes are a big issue. We want to get rid of those. I want to work against that issue. And
material is something that you're particularly interested in.
Yeah. So material as well. That's something I'm really, interested, which, relates to what we're talking about.
Relates to potholes.
Yeah. So, it's all, for me, it's all about helping the community and, making sure that, we're all safe and, we can continue to connect and thrive,
Great. So, is there a challenge that you're in the back of your mind? You're got a little bit of anxiety over starting your first year of college.
I mean, it's difficult not to be a little anxious and nervous. Everybody's certainly felt those emotions. I'd say I'm a pretty confident dude. I like to come into a room, be confident. Know what I know. I like to know what I'm talking about. But to an extent, there's a lot of uncertainty. And it's okay. That's okay to feel that way. We all learn, and I'm looking forward to learning. I want to go to college and learn, and eventually become a civil engineer, and maybe one day get over those nerves. That anxiousness, because it is there. It's difficult to get rid of it, but
I think your biggest challenge is going to be the commute.
That's true. Yeah.
You're going to have to learn the train or some bus system. I don't know. What do your parents do? What does your dad do?
So my dad, he drives trucks for a company, and my mom is she's working at a school right now.
Okay, and this interest in building with Legos, that just was something that came to you naturally.
About. Yeah, it just came about. I don't know. There's some things you can't explain. Why did I take apart all these toys when I was younger? Why was I so into Legos? I don't know. But, it's definitely something that's there. I'm super passionate about, creating stuff. And, I do consider myself a creative person. So that's why, I want to take those things and, put it into a career that I think I will enjoy, and that's civil engineering.
Yeah, that's a very creative area. And I don't care what, the creativity comes out in so many different ways. So you're heading off to college. I think you're probably as prepared as you can possibly be. Any other thoughts you want to share with people? Any advice you might have for
any
the
advice,
future generations?
For the future generation, for people in high school, I highly encourage you guys to apply for the
scholarship.
Manufacturing, it's an option. It's a viable career pathway to take. It's always there. It's one of the biggest industries, and in some way, it's sort of invisible. It's often looked past. So it's there. I'd look into it. Champion Now is a great organization. There's a lot of great stuff you can learn on the website. Watch the videos. Inform yourself. That's about it. Yeah.
You talked about the coaching, the 6 years old to about 12.
Years old, yeah.
And you were part of sports yourself in high school. What leadership skills or what team skills, I guess, did you learn, or did you learn those from participating in that? And how have you applied that?
I'm a very leadership oriented person. I'd say I like to be in control, I guess. But not just like in total control. Like of
Yeah, that
course,
can be a bad thing.
Yeah, that's a bad thing. But it is good to take initiative and take control at times, and that's something I've definitely learned from being a part of high school athletics. So I played high school soccer, and not just for the school, but I also played for club. And there's times when you gotta step into this leadership role. You gotta be the one to take initiative for your team. Some people gotta speak up. So if you're not willing to take that change, if you're not willing to step up and suggest things, your ideas will never be heard. And I kind of learned that stepping into that like leadership role. I was the captain for my club soccer team, and stepping into that role, I learned to speak more vocally and suggest ideas, and also incorporate other ideas into what I'm saying as well and what I believe.
So listening to the members of your team.
Yeah, of course, and that's just as important as taking initiative yourself. So that definitely taught me a lot. Playing soccer and just being a leader in that, it really does teach you these valuable valuable things that you need to know later on in life.
Interpersonal skills.
Yeah, personal skills, of course. So those leadership attributes, I do think I can bring into my career in the future.
I think you definitely already are. I mean, that is one of the things that I think it's helped shape who you are and the way you come across. So you can kind of tell. The nice thing is that since I've known you for about an hour now, you listen.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the one talking, and you do a lot of listening, and that's, to me, a great skill to have. What do most people get wrong about manufacturing careers? Or engineering careers, for that matter?
Well, I mean, for the manufacturing part, as I said earlier, people just think it's a line. You're getting your hands dirty. There's the misconception behind what it really is, and part of that is that, as I said earlier, it's sort of an invisible industry. It's like looked past. People don't really consider it. My age, young people don't really consider it as a pathway they want to take. So I feel like the big misconception lies in the fact that there's this like false image around what it really is.
What is the misconception about manufacturing careers?
For younger people, I think for people my age, it kind of seems boring in a way. The image of manufacturing, you immediately think of these lines, these machines, just all these components you're putting together, and it's not an image or a career that people my age really often envision themselves in, even though it's more than that. And obviously it's a very viable career pathway. You make great money, and it's more than what the young people perceive it to be.
Okay. What would you say to a seventh grader?
A seventh grader?
Yeah, about a career in manufacturing, and or how it relates to other careers.
So I think the Camp Champ it relates to this question very perfectly. So bringing those high schoolers, Champion now had 2 sessions last year with students from my high school, Taft, and then Chippewa Middle School nearby to here. And just bringing those, of course you have the young high schoolers, but then you have the even younger middle schoolers, and bringing those 2 younger generations together to learn about manufacturing and working with machines and putting these components together, it opens the younger generation view to manufacturing, and to them it becomes more of a interesting option and something that they look into. So that's where my advice stands. I advise people my age, younger, to look into their options, look into manufacturing, because a 4-year college isn't for everyone. And maybe not even trade, but maybe manufacturing is for you. It's an option. It's there.
Yeah, it seems like you did get a chance to watch some of those videos
Yeah.
of the camp champs that Terry's put on. What was the thing that was like a, oh, really, kind of moment for you when you were watching that?
Even though I don't know those Taft students personally, I do go to school with them. So there's a connection there. These are people that, experience an everyday, like same schedule and, same events that I do. We can relate in a lot of ways. We go to the same high school, and, seeing them, dibble dabble in, this, manufacturing and, with these machines, it's an eye opener because, I'm seeing people my age, high schoolers, even these middle schoolers, work with these machines, put combining all these components, putting all this stuff together, and it's eye opening because you can see that there is an interest, and
some of them get pretty excited to see the machining of the pen. I mean, they're working with at the camps. It's wood, but they're machining them and milling it, and you're putting the whole thing together, and they get to be a part of that. So that, from what I remember from these, every one of them are the kids' faces lighting up, especially the middle school kids. They're just sort of like, wow.
Yeah,
and they just ran this machine.
It's an enlightening experience for younger people, and that's why I think Champion now, what they're doing with Camp Champ is really important because they're the organization is getting the younger generation interested in that field, and that's exactly what that field needs.
So at some point, let's say, well, let's just be safe, 20 years down the line when you have your own son or daughter interested in maybe going and machining as a career, you might be open to it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's getting to the parents too is kind of what I'm getting at. This is a perception that's going to take a long time to move the needle.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear your take on this. What moment made you realize you wanted to pursue engineering?
It's difficult to pinpoint an exact moment. It's a combination of all these moments and all these experiences, and I think at some point you sit down and you think to yourself, what career do I want to pursue? And that's what I did. I thought to myself, where do I want to go with this? What skills do I have, and how can I put that into an actual job, an actual career? And civil engineering was always there. It was always in the back of my head, and using these leadership skills I learned with soccer, this creativity I had growing up, and combining that into something that I can do for the rest of my life. That's something I'm passionate about, and I know that I can enjoy.
And enjoyment is a big factor.
Yeah.
You want to be happy with the career you pursue. And it seems like Lego led you there. Playing with Legos, can be a lot of fun.
Legos, kids.
So you knew you had fun doing this type of work and for fun. So it led to something naturally. It seems like.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting. At what age do you think you were when you realized? You started actually connecting this to a career. Were you still in grade school, or was it in high school?
No, I think maybe towards the end of middle school, beginning of high school. Because, when you're younger, you have all these, absurd, dreams. You want to be a race car driver. You want to go be a, dancer, something, something absurd. And, there are people that do take those, careers. And, good for them. That's great. They're living a lot of kids' dreams. But, at some point, I start pushing those options out, and I think towards the end of middle school, I really started to narrow down, what am I good at, what am I passionate about? That's building, creating things, and when I narrow that down, I think to myself, hey, I think civil engineering, that's a career that I'm gonna enjoy, and I'm gonna be good at. So,
and as you, I think, mentioned before, you're a first generation. College bound for your family, and that's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah,
so
it's great.
What's the coolest thing about manufacturing?
For my eyes, I think the coolest thing, putting all these components together, the machinery, all the software, it's all really techy, but really interesting. I think it's all great.
It's been a pleasure getting to know you more.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for stopping by here and talking to us and sharing your background.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.